You're listening to Redefining Energy. Your co-hosts from Berlin, Gerard, Reid, and from London, Laurent Segalen.
Today on Redefining Energy, we're going to talk about the Ukrainian electricity system.
But first, a word from our partner.
Aquila Capital is a sustainable investment and asset development company headquartered in Hamburg in Germany. Aquila Capital invests in real assets in clean energy and sustainable infrastructure on behalf of its clients.
Yes, Gerard. We were doing our little program, and about a week ago, I got a call from our friends at Eurelectric, and they said, do you want to interview the CEO of a Ukrainian utility? And I say, yes, please bring it on. It was very difficult to put the interview together because you are yourself in America right now, but we all made the time, and we have realized an exceptional conversation with Maxim Timchenko, who is the CEO of DTEK, one of the top integrated utility in Ukraine.
Well, Ron, I suppose we better tell people who DTEK is.
Yeah, so DTEK is an integrated Ukrainian utility, which is privately owned by one of Ukrainian richest investor called Mr. Akhmedov. He has a diversified portfolio of industry in Ukraine, including the Bill steel plant in Mariupol. DTEK is involved in generation, transmission, and distribution. It's a company which was growing quite nicely until this year. Roughly, they have $4 billion of revenue per year and an EBITDA of $1 billion. So it's quite a big company. They have 60,000 employees. But of course, the whole world came collapsing down. But what's great is that it's not the story of destruction. It's a story of resilience, of resistance, and of hope.
Yeah, well, let's listen to the interview.
Maxim, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting.
Maxim, where are you right now?
I'm in our trip, visiting different places to tell about Ukraine, to bring real situation from the ground, to discuss help and support required for Ukraine. And what is also very important is to talk about post-war Ukraine, specifically in relation to electricity sector. As today, I'm in London.
How would you qualify your morale after more than a month of war?
After this horrible war, the whole world will be changed. Definitely, Ukraine will be different, and people in Ukraine will be different. Nobody expected such a unity, such a resilience, and such a heroism from Ukrainian people. To be honest, it was very difficult for us to survive for the first several days. It was shock for the whole world, for us. But then we realized that this is the fight for the future of us, our children, our country, and for the future of civilized world. And we had no choice but to stabilize our professional activities in producing electricity, producing coal, producing natural gas, more importantly, supplying electricity and heat to our consumers. And basically, in 1 week, we will already be in position of very strong fighters energy front line for the stability of the electricity system operating and everything depending on that.
To go back just before the invasion, can you describe the situation of DTEK?
So DTEK is one of the major power producers in the country. Today we produce, or even before the war, we were producing about 75% of coal, more than 10% of natural gas. We are the major renewables investor, 1.5 gigawatt, 1 gigawatt in operation and 500 megawatts in construction. We operate 8 thermal power stations, in total producing about 20% of electricity in the country. We are the major exporter of electricity, coal out of Ukraine, and we operate power distribution networks in 5 major regions of Ukraine: city of Kiev, Kiev region, Odessa region, Dnipropetrovsk, Donetsk, supplying electricity to more than 3.5 million consumers. So basically, we can call ourselves as a national company by geography and by our contribution to energy security of Ukraine. And also, we do it all with the 60,000 people working for DTEK.
Some of your asset base have been attacked by Russia. So how does it work? Do they occupy the plants? Do they destroy the plant? Do they cut the wires?
So I think it's important for everybody to understand that the war started not on 24th of February, but actually in 2014. And our company originated from Donetsk. And 18 years ago, it was regional company with 3 power stations and 1 coal mine. And Donetsk is our home. And then we managed to grow as a national company. But we had such a sad experience of 2014 war in Donbass. We had to leave this region, evacuate our people, move our headquarters to Kiev. And of course, we got some experience of these working in war conditions. And then I think that we were quite prepared for the events that started in Ukraine on 24th of February. So just 2 weeks in advance, we resumed operation of our structure of anti-crisis center at headquarter level and at the level of our production facilities. We built stock of the most necessary things like materials for restoring power supply of fuel. Then we started to build cash balances so that we have enough liquidity for the first weeks of the war. We sent our IT specialists to Lviv city on the western region of Ukraine to make reserved offices and set up an all IT infrastructure. After 24th of February, it took only 3 days for us to relocate most important critical people to keep the whole company in operation and manage everything happening. Of course, we rebuilt the whole system of management of DTEK. And just 2 days before this full-scale invasion started, we already experienced shelling of one of our power stations, Luganskaya power station located in Lugansk region. On 26th of February, this power station was captured by Russians, so we lost control over this power station, 1 out of 8. The other power station, called Zaporozhskaya Thermal Power Station, located in the same place as Zaporozhskaya Nuclear Power Station, also affected by this military operation and activities because the place where they're located under control of Russians. At the moment, they do not interfere into operation of our power station, but we cannot supply coal because railway road were destroyed. And we had to switch this power station to gas as a fuel, but still keep it in operation. The rest of our power station is still in stable operation. We managed to bring enough coal to this power station and they supply electricity to Ukrainian electricity grid. Of course, the most difficult situation with our power distribution companies. As I said, we have 2 companies located in Donetsk and Kiev region. Kiev region, especially north of Kiev region, were very much affected. And you heard all these names, Bucha, Irpin, Gostomel, these horrible things and images coming from these places. Mm-hmm. So basically, this is territory where our power distribution company operate. And now, as this territory will liberated, we do whatever we can to restore electricity supply as quickly as possible. It will take some days and weeks, but we consolidated all our resources from other regional distribution companies to Kiev region so that people get back light and heat. The most difficult situation with Donetsk region and city of Mariupol, 500,000 people in Mariupol, and they live for 5 weeks without light, heat, water supply, and food. They destroyed the whole city, which were, very nice and beautiful city. It was the heart of our sister company, the major steel producer in Ukraine called Metinvest Holding. They invested a lot to build the city as a benchmark for all other Ukrainian cities. And Russians completely destroyed it. Mariupol is important not from military point of view, but also as a symbol of Ukraine, to be differentiated from the cities occupied since 2014. We did whatever we could to restore supply of electricity to Mariupol, but until now we couldn't manage it. So about 35% of our consumers in Donetsk region without electricity supply for several weeks already. And that's the most affected area at the moment. And is the worst possible feeling when you see that people live without electricity for so many days and you cannot do anything.
Maxim, how is your manpower, your personnel? How are they doing?
I started this interview saying that the whole world was so impressed by heroism of Ukrainians. And of course, first of all, it's about our soldiers and about our army. But also, if you think about people working to restore electricity supply or heat supply, they're heroes. Our emergency crews, they work under fire. They take their own personal responsibility, even if we don't let them go, and to go and to repair transmission lines. I call them heroes. Of course, we support our distribution companies with all material supply and with the necessary uniform and bulletproof vests or helmets or whatever is necessary for that. Before they go for repair, they get permission from our military forces. But war is war, and they risk their lives every second they go to these territories.
Maxim, I go back to the start of the conversation. I thought it was very interesting what you said, which was you were thinking about the future. And I think it would be really good to hear actually how you see the future of the electricity and the energy landscape in Ukraine. And how do you rebuild and all that type of stuff?
I trying to deliver very simple messages, especially speaking with politicians in Brussels or here in London. Europe made huge strategic mistake being so dependent on Russian oil or gas and not paying enough attention to diversification of supply. And now we all feel the consequences of that. So Ukraine, being the country with such a great potential and natural resources, basically, if you touch any part of energy security, Ukraine is in good condition for the future. And what I'm saying that Ukraine should be part of solution these strategic mistakes of over reliance on Russians. Let's start with nuclear.
Yeah.
We have 55% of nuclear in our generation mix. And following this great achievement during the war, and I call it synchronization of Ukrainian electricity grid with European, and have such an access and basically being already part of European electricity grid, we can be one of the major supplier of clean nuclear energy out of Ukraine. The second, talking about coal. Yes, in midterm, it's not part of European story, and we fully understand and support green transition. But as a immediate reaction, when embargo on supply of Russian coal is basically accepted, I believe, by all countries of Europe, or I hope that it will be accepted, Ukraine can replace Russian coal. Today, we managed to produce much more than we consume because of significant drop of electricity consumption in Ukraine. And from this week, we already started exporting coal out of Ukraine. The third one is natural gas. Although, some politicians were saying that Nord Stream 2 is purely commercial project, and now the whole world see that they were wrong. And we were saying about that for several years. But now, although we importing natural gas, we have the second largest reserve of gas. We know how to produce gas, and based on our experience, we managed to increase our production from 0.3 BCM to 2 BCM in very short period of time during 5 years. And today we have all grounds to say that in 3 years' time, Ukraine will start exporting gas, becoming net exporter of natural gas to Europe. Renewables. We have great potential in wind speed and in irradiation and access to the grid, so that we can increase our renewable capacity by more than 3 times now. Today, we have 8.7 gigawatt of solar and wind capacity, and we see that we can easily, of course, with significant investments, but based on natural resources, we can increase it to 25 gigawatt of capacity. So I see that Ukraine will become part of new European energy strategy. And I believe that everybody will take it seriously now and build new energy security strategy for European Union based not only on Green Deal, but based on diversification of energy supplies.
Maxim, this is great to hear your long-term optimism, but in the short term, and we have listeners all around the world, is there anything they can do to help you? If you need some hardware, can the utility contact you, propose you some, I don't know, spare parts, or even it can be, software if you have cyber attack? What can we do to help you as an energy community?
First of all, I would like to thank you in person. Thank all our partners and representatives of energy community. And we feel it every day. All words of support, all supplies, financial sanctions, and everything you are doing for us and for Ukraine. So how it works now, we try to consolidate all our requests under Ministry of Energy. And a representative of the Ministry of Energy working directly with the European Commission and Energy Community Secretariat, where they define all materials or supplies we need for now and prioritize it. So put first priority, and basically as a first priority is everything necessary to restore power supply and our substations and transmission lines and everything related to that. And then it's under management of Special Crisis Center under European Commission and also in the Energy Community Secretariat. We are very much appreciated to Association of Distribution Companies. They reacted on our request for the first days and already supplied us generators. But now I would like to refer your offer to the system already developed, and probably we will discuss on details how we can organize this support. So what is more important, probably to stop this war, is your voice and public pressure on embargo on Russian oil, Russian gas, Russian coal, or anything coming from Russia. From the first day, we appealed to our colleagues from other countries. We have an initiative called Stop Bloody Energy. And this is the key message we want to deliver. And I think this is something very important if you deliver as well through your channels and through discussion. I hope that in one or other way you can join us in this initiative.
Maxim, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for your support. And thank you for your voice.
Thank you, Maxim. Well, Gerard, that was one of our most powerful interviews, and I'm glad we are doing this podcast just for moments like this.
Oh, I agree totally with you, Laurent. And actually, it's since we actually did the interview, I had some very interesting conversations in and around what Ukraine's actually achieved from an electricity point of view. And the funny story was, the talk was that they would synchronize into the European grid. It'd probably take 10 years. And there was actually, on the day before the invasion took place, there was a test where what they were doing, and they've seemed to be preparing this for years, the test was to be able to disconnect from the Russian grid. And then, of course, the war starts. And then, a few weeks later, they're synchronized into the European grid. And what I heard is you had to get all the grid operators across Europe to agree. And they all unanimously agreed to this. And suddenly interconnected in, right? Amazing what's achievable when you're in a crisis.
What I found the most amazing is that even if the war's still going on, he already thinks about the future. He already wants to rebuild his country. Every time they enter in a liberated town, the first things they want to do is put back the electricity and heating. I mean, the dedication of those people is admirable.
I agree totally with you, Laurent. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'd like to thank Maxim Timchenko and all the people of DTEK. Really, we wish them the best, and they come out of this stronger, and they are strong. I really want to thank Eurelectric, Christian, Bruce, good friends who have managed to arrange this interview, and Aquila Capital, our partner. And to finish, I will say, Slava Ukraini.
Yeah, well said, Laurent. Well said. Looking forward to speak to you then in 2 weeks' time, my friend.
Thank you for listening to Redefining Energy. Don't forget to rate the show and subscribe on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, or the platform of your choice.